saying like stuff's busy now. Like, so thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I won't get to see my kids for a little while. So my kids don't live here anymore. I got one up in Portland. I'll see them in January, and the other's in Minneapolis. So I'll see them sometime in the spring.
What's that like for you? What's that like? Like I'm saying, like your kids are like out. They're
For me, it's actually kind of cooler, right? Like my life began when I got to make my own choices and figure out my parents, they were not like what's the word I'm looking for? Like they let me do whatever the hell I wanted to do, right? And so like even with my kids, I was like very very liberal. But the reality is like your kids still like crave and kind of shape themselves around like not wanting to disappoint you, right? And so even if your parents are cool, like there's still like this massive evolution that you go through when you leave the nest. And so like I thought it was really cool for my kids to kind of see like what they'd become. And for the first few months it's kind of weird, but then after that it's pretty awesome.
I remember you wrote about your oldest and you were like, yeah, they're stepping out. They're going to be staying. I think it's like cuz have they been in Portland this whole time or
Like so we moved when we moved to Arizona, they were getting ready to go to their junior year of high school. So they were pretty bummed, and they didn't like it here. And so for their senior year, about halfway through, we sent them back to Portland, and they live with a friend, and we like just took care of the money in that, so that way they can go back to the same school and graduate with their friends. And then they stayed there until about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, and then they moved to Minneapolis. But then my youngest, when they graduated high school, they moved right to Portland.
do
So they've been there now for a few years.
do you miss New York? Because I mean, for most of the early part of me knowing you, you were like a New York dude, and now
Yeah,
you're a West Coast guy like for decades.
yeah. No, I mean, I've now lived in Arizona longer than I've lived anywhere aside when I grew up in New Jersey. Um, like I just almost 10 years. But no, I mean, yeah, I do. But I also really like the West Coast, and with my job now, like it's completely remote. And the company I run, most of my company is on the East Coast. So we thought about going back to New York, but just I got 3 dogs and 3 cats, and that's not really practical with them. So we're trying to figure it out. Like we're in Arizona now. We might go back to Portland. My wife loves it there. My youngest is there. Um, but we'll see. I don't know.
I got it.
Yeah.
You were the first person I ever printed out questions for. I've never ever done that. So I would like you to know you have a special place in this.
All right. That's good. That's good. I forced the preparation. I like it.
Now here's the thing. Oh, by the way, I hope you're like I was recording all that other stuff. Is that
Oh,
okay?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
is
fine.
it okay? Cool. I was just making sure.
Yeah,
I always like to tell people I started recording, but we just started, and I was like,
yeah,
um, why? Well, actually, no. I'm going to start with this question. Do you remember how you and I met?
I want to say that it was on the Lifetime Resurrection tour in 1992, and I just remember I was sleeping or kind of falling asleep in a bed, and all of a sudden you came in and were loud and had this crazy energy, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but it was pretty fun. So that's what I remember. I don't remember whose house it was at, but I think it was probably that '92 tour, Lifetime Resurrection tour. So I
It
don't. I think that, but the times before that, I don't think we met. But I could be wrong. It could have been on the Resurrection mouthpiece when we went out to the West Coast. It could have been that one too. But I feel like it was the summer tour with Lifetime.
it was actually it was nine. I mean, I was like I think 94 or 93 or 94, and it was you were with 108, and
Oh,
you were sleeping in Hartsfield's bed, and
okay.
you were asleep, and I went in, and I was just like, hey man, hey, I wanted to meet you. You and I are gonna meet, and you like woke up, you shook my hand, and then like, okay, that's it. You can go back to bed. And then the next day, I saw you because you guys were playing in Long Beach, and I went up to
Okay.
you, and I was like, hey, look, dude. I really am sorry. Like I didn't mean to wake you, and you were like, dude, actually I thought that was pretty cool, and you actually put me on the list, unbeknownst to me. You put me on the list for that show. So
Okay, so it was a little bit later, but yeah, for some reason I thought it was the Lifetime Resurrection tour, but that makes sense. So that was probably, yeah, that would have been, if it was in Long Beach with 108, that would have been 1994.
and why did you let me? Because this is our first conversation like this. Like you and I have spoken, but this is our first interview since the 108 documentary that we did back in the
Yeah.
90s. Why did you let me? I always wondered like why you let me come on tour with you. Aside from the fact that we were friends, like you didn't know me really at all, and so you were like, yeah, sure. We're gonna let this guy that we don't know come and be with us in the van for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, to be quite frank, back then, I don't think we thought too much about anything. Like, right, like there was never a thought of like, what is this going to mean 6 months from now? What does this mean in a like deeper level? It's just like, oh, someone wants to come on the tour. All right, cool. Like whatever. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I thought you were a funny guy, and I thought that would be kind of interesting. I wish it would have been on a different tour
Yeah.
because I think where everybody's hearts and heads were, and just the things that I think we were struggling with as individuals, which then reflected how we got along and how we interacted collectively was kind of disappointing. It's kind of funny. I was reading the interview, the antimatter interview the other day with Dennis from Refused, and he was talking about how Norm had brought up the movie that they had done, like the documentary that Chris, the guitar player, had done on Refused. And he was like, yeah, like it's not reflective at all of the band. Like it captured this moment really well, but it was not our finest moment, because of how we were, they were all getting pulled apart for whatever reasons. And I think it was the same thing for us. So like, I can't watch that. I don't think I've ever really watched the documentary, to be honest. I think I've seen little bits and pieces of it. One, I can't see anything with myself. It's weird for me, but also like that period was not a good period, personally, collectively. So, but anyway, I mean, I don't know. I think at the time it was just like, hey, like, all right, this guy wants to come. He's a nice guy. Like, whatever, cool.
I think also the whole idea of like for me it was sort of like a romantic thing of like I'm a filmmaker gonna be in New York taking the bus out there
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
like
That was probably the most impressive part. What, 3 days on a Greyhound.
four. But I will never forget you. You were driving me to the bus station, and from when we got in the car to when we got to the bus station, you were like, dude, don't do it. Let's get you a ticket. I'm like, no, dude, the bus. And like literally, it didn't, your attitude, it just stayed even. And you were like, dude, don't do this. Just get on, just go on a plane. It's not going to be that expensive.
I
And
mean, I feel like it probably wasn't that much. Maybe it was a different in some price. I don't know, but I think I've been on a Greyhound bus once for like 5 hours or 6 hours, and it was like not a good 5 or 6 hours. So I was like, I couldn't wish my worst enemy to go on a for 4 days with speaking of someone I like, and who has just gotten off this tour that was, disastrous in a lot of ways. Like, why would you continue to torture yourself? But whatever, you're a glutton for punishment. So
you shot one of the final scenes. I made you hold the camera. I said, dude, you got to shoot me waiting to get online on the bus. And you kept saying, okay, dude, like I'll do it, but don't do this. Like this is so awful. You don't need to be doing this.
yeah, I think it was just me feeling bad for like how that tour felt. I was like, you just can't, like, this is like the shit cherry on top of the shit sundae, right? Like, don't do it. But whatever, it's fine. It's a good story, I guess. You got some memories from that, I guess.